Hey everyone, and welcome back to another session of Planet Zoo with our Wonder World Zoo. Now, I know the weather doesn't look all that great right now, but that will change. What's important right now is that what we left off with is some really basic habitats, but we're going to work on those today. Right now, for the first time, you'll notice that I'm going to be adding a workbench or a workshop for our engineer. So that way we can do some research on some South America stuff, because I want to be able to incorporate that into our South America area of the zoo. Makes sense. And we're also going to hire another mechanic. So, his main task right now is to do research. I'm pressing pause just so I can go ahead and get that set up. And I also want to take care of some training. Because again, it's really important that like your vendors, your security guards, your keepers are all as well trained as possible. They're more expensive as far as their wages, but that's okay because you get your money's worth out of them. So here we go. Let's go ahead and have our new mechanic research South America themes. So, while we have that going on, I believe we can go ahead and work on one of our habitats. Because right now, I think we have enough money to where we can at least beautify one of, at least one of the habitats for the time being. Everything looks pretty good. Guests are happy. That's really important. But first of all, one other important thing to do is to just kind of hide away our staff facilities. And I may want to add more things like a vet hospital, but that's not going to necessarily be needed right away. I mean, I got the alerts on the left-hand side that I don't have one, but that's not super important for right now. So right now what I'm doing is I am temporarily expanding the giant otter exhibit just to bring it closer to the staff facilities. So now that the facilities are out of the way, it's less of an eyesore. Now the customers aren't even bothered by it, but it just looks better this way. And we'll go ahead and add more plantation and whatnot. But as you see here, I kind of struggle with getting the pathing to work just the way I want it to. And I'm okay with a bridge, but I know that it can look better. So there we go. I can just flatten the space now, and I should be able to get the pathing to work just the way I want it, just like so. Back it up just a little bit, and there we go. And of course I'm doing this in a time lapse. It just makes it go by much faster. And of course, as we improve the habitat for the giant otter, we're going to need less actual barriers for our mechanics to maintain. Because using the natural surroundings and like buildings and things like that you can actually customize, those don't need to be repaired by a mechanic. It's a lovely feature. Whereas the barriers actually do. So right now I'm just kind of playing around with the idea of having a rock wall for the giant otter. I think it looks okay, but I find a better use for it later on. So I'm actually gonna keep it overall. And I kind of want a tree close to what will eventually be the hard shelter. So yeah, I don't like where it's at right there, but I do have a use for it later, like I mentioned. So I'm just drawing out where I want the hard shelter to be, how large I want it to be, that sort of thing. And just the overall shape. And that way I have a better idea of how I want to mold the overall space. Because I want our guests to have plenty of viewing. Is viewability a word? It might be. It might be. So I'm thinking about having just a cave with a pillar in the middle type of thing, just to make it look fun. It doesn't really. I guess it kind of has a purpose. It makes it look more realistic that the overhead of the cave would be supported by the pillar. So, and I want to raise. Obviously, I want to raise the platform of the cave itself, so that way people have a view of the otters, even if they're hiding in the rain or something like that. And one other thing to note is that doing all this work is really good. It really opens up the space, makes it look a lot more majestic, but there's still always room for improvement. I would say, if I were to rate this, I'd say it's probably 80% of the way there, and I'm okay with that for the time being. I want to make this habitat look as natural as possible, while at the same time, it may not look like something you would see exactly in nature, but it still looks natural, if that makes sense. That's what I'm shooting for. And we can always put down bedding later. I have an idea here for this little spot too, just for almost like a little standing area, where if the otter actually uses it, you'd almost be able to see the otter from anywhere you're standing near the habitat itself. So I'm going to play with that a little bit. For right now, I want to make sure that this cave looks legit. There we are, kind of capping this off on the left side. I really like the way this is turning out. I don't know if this is exactly the way that I kind of envisioned it to be, but I am pretty happy with the way it turned out. In fact, this almost accidentally worked out just the way I like it. I didn't expect to use this as part of the ceiling of the hard shelter, of the cave area, but it just happened to work. I won't complain. It works out really well. Here we are to kind of seal things up on the back. And over to the side. There we go. That looks pretty good. Now let's see if we can do something to kind of make the keeper's entrance look a little bit more closed off, but something kind of natural at the same time. I think that looks pretty good. We still have to do something about that. This little spot right here. And I'm thinking about adding a small waterfall. And then a stream that goes to the area where they swim now. I think that'd be a pretty cool thing. And again, this is going to look a bit man-made, if you will. But still, relatively natural at the same time. And there I'm putting in the water feature. And incidentally, I didn't exactly plan for this, but as I was working on the giant otter exhibit here, or habitat, I forgot that we were not paused, or maybe I didn't forget that we were not paused. Maybe I actually did do it intentionally. I don't remember anymore, honestly. But we were building up some nice funds in the process of working on this habitat, which allows us to work on the giant anteater exhibit for the next session. And then after that, we should be able to have the funds to just kind of go forth and work on a new habitat. And I'm almost thinking about having some extra South America exhibits, kind of like the ones that we put into the mountainside. So as you're walking through the mountain, you get 4 exhibits. I'm thinking about putting 2 more in the giant anteater exhibit. I don't know if I've seen something like that done. I'll have to think about it, because it might work. Now here I'm kind of struggling with how I want the waterfall to work, because it looks a little too wide. So here I am working on some sort of rock figure or sculpture of some sort that I can multiply all the way around 360 degrees, hopefully to kind of shape the waterfall itself. And I'm not sure if I'm 100% okay with it, but I think it's good enough. And here we have the little stream. This took some playing around with to get the way I like it. Because what I didn't take into consideration is having more than one layer of land area for the otters to run around. Now this would have worked really well if I just had one layer. But I did end up going with more than one layer. And you'll see what I mean as we go forward. So now I'm just moving all the plants away, because the idea here is to kind of sculpt the layering in, if I remember correctly. Yeah, here we go. Now you'll see what I'm talking about. I'm also figuring out, as I'm doing this, where I want the edge of the habitat to be. Because I'm going to cut through part of their current swimming area, but it'll be okay. They still have plenty of space to swim. And of course, I'm giving more of a natural barrier instead of using the wood barriers. I don't get rid of all the wood barriers yet. That's obviously way too much water. Way too much water. Here I am just kind of playing around with some ideas. Didn't really like those, so I undid them. So now I'm figuring out, where do I want the guest to be able to walk through? Is that going to be enough space for the otters and for the guests to be able to see from all angles? So I'm trying to figure that out as I keep going with this renovation, if you will. So I pulled that out just temporarily to flatten that. And after that point, I just kind of decided, okay, I'm just going to remove all the barriers temporarily as I sculpt this out. But I like the layers. The layers really add to the space, I think. Just a different dimension. So here we are. Like I said, I wasn't going to actually take away from their swimming area. I decided to push it back further. That's all. Because they actually have a lot of swimming space. Or running space. They have a lot of running space. So here we are, just shaping things about. I wasn't quite happy with that, so I undid it. But I'm going to move the pathing. And that's where I want the pathing to go. So now I just have to make sure that that the land is level enough that it doesn't go into the habitat. And obviously, this way, everything should work out properly. The other reason why I want to do layers, not only just to add extra dimension to the habitat, but also to give underwater viewing. And spoiler alert, I'm not super happy with the end result, but you'll see there's always room for improvement. There's always a way around it. You'll see how it goes. Just make sure that's nice and even. And here, I got the habitat closed off again, so the otters won't be able to escape. I'm just kind of shaping some more area for the otters to run around. Still maybe a little too much water still. But I might be okay with that. Yeah, definitely too much. Definitely too much. And I think this is where I just kind of fiddle around to try to get the pathing the way I like it. I'm not able to get there quite yet. I'm just trying to make little micro adjustments just to see if I can shape the land a little bit more smoothly. And then I think this is where I figure out what I wanted to do. So I'm not going to have the stream go directly into the swimming area. That little stream's going to be separated a little bit, but I can always modify with some rocks and other scenery just to make it look like it actually does go into it. Add a little waterfall, just a small one. You'll see, I think it actually works out pretty well. Of course, got to make sure they have enough sand and soil, enough long grass. Surprisingly, I would have never thought that otters like that much long grass. They like quite a bit of it. So I wasn't happy with that. I decided to redo the stream pathing because it was just getting too deep. So I just wanted something really basic. I do like the water level right there. That's pretty good. Any higher than that's just too high. So now that I know roughly where I want the water level, I just have to smooth things out. Like that should do. That might still be too much. Yeah, right there is what I like. Just right there. Also want to make sure that the otters can get to the water, so I'm smoothing things out a little bit more. Making sure all the underwater is sand, because they don't want too much rock. Even though their little cave is also rock, which is ironic enough. But they can get into the water, so it's good. But I do want to make it a little bit more interesting for them. So I got to add a little bit of plantation. Just like so. maybe? Yeah, maybe right there. We'll see. We'll see. I decided I'm not quite happy with the waterfall feature after all, so I kind of play around with it, see if I can reshape it somewhat. And then I decide maybe a small waterfall right in the middle there would be really cool too. So I gave that a shot. I think I like the way it turned out, especially once I added a little bit more rock up in the front to give the otters more areas to jump. And you'll see what I'm talking about as we go through it. Just temporarily putting the mud bath right over there. And in fact, I actually like where it is. And later on you'll see what I'm talking about in the next session. So now that we got the waterfall feature, I think mostly figured out, I'm going to go ahead and move things back to where they were. And I didn't realize this at the time, but I accidentally selected an item from the giant anteater exhibit, so I was having a hard time adjusting, but I got it figured out. So now I'm just kind of beautifying a little bit, adding a bit of rock to the area where the stream is, and that way it's kind of a natural pathway to another, you guessed it, another waterfall. But this one's a lot more subtle. I decided to keep this one really subtle. Since it's just a stream, obviously we don't want anything too extreme. The rhyming was not intentional. But I think that looks pretty good. So now I just got to work on this path a little bit because it's got to work somehow. But so far, I have not had the best of luck. So I'm moving some. I'm thinking maybe the bins are in the way. So I keep on moving the bins over, and that I'm not sure if that fixed the problem. I don't think it really did. Ultimately, I wanted to be able to have the path tunnel through because I've had good luck with that in the past, but it just wasn't working for me. So I just decided to shape it from the Otter exhibit to the existing path that we have, and then be able to eventually, obviously I can't get it quite there yet, but eventually we'll also be able to have a pathway walking around to the other side of the Otter exhibit, so you get multiple viewing angles. And it's also a good opportunity to be able to move around the existing trees to where they should be. And I had to remove the barriers temporarily just so I can get the pathing to work the way I want it to. More or less. More or less. And again, I don't know why I had to do it from this side, where the otters are, because then I'm able to get it to work with the pathing that is over by the giant anteater. It's not perfect, but I had to settle. I had to settle. I think that should work, at least temporarily. We can always go back and work on it some more. But let's see. Let's at least get the pathing down. That way the guests can enjoy the giant otters. We can make some money off of some donations. We can educate them and whatnot. So we got our education boards down. We got some donation bins. We got lots of recycle bins because because guests are filthy. And look at that space. It's not complete quite yet, but look at how majestic that is. That is like a mystical little sea otter exhibit or habitat, whatever. So putting a little bit of plants. Definitely going to have some extra plants. It just doesn't, the space doesn't feel right without extra plantation. And of course, I'm still doing research, the vet research. That research will help with the education as well. I like the way that these bushes cover some of the area where there's some level differences of the landscape. Worked out really well. I did notice that there was an issue with the shelter, and for a minute it was showing that there was enough shelter space, so I had to figure that out. I thought maybe since pressing play that they recalculated, but you'll see later on that's not actually the issue. I also had to fix and adjust the caiman exhibit, because since they had babies, the baby caiman can escape it from areas that the adult caimans cannot. So that's one little tip in case you play the game. Maybe you've had issues. Look at how cute that is. But just in case you've had issues with that before, yeah, sometimes the little critters can get into places that the adults cannot. So I had to learn that the hard way. So here I'm trying to mess around with the habitat, or with the hard shelter. So I'm thinking maybe they just need more space. I think it's weird that they would, but better safe than sorry. So I almost double the hard shelter. And then I realized, I had to think about it, and then I realized, I think it was because of the fact that that they didn't have enough pathing to get to the hard shelter. So I was able to undo the doubling of their hard shelter and just added more rocks. And look at this. Watch this. Watch this. Ready? Jump! That is so adorable. I could watch that all day. Oh, that was awesome. I like those otters. They're fun to watch. They're very animated. And then I just add a couple more, maybe add a couple more to just add to the overall appeal. But I like the subtle plantation. I do want to add more. I think I want to make it look more rainforest-like. But I'm pretty happy with the space so far. I think it looks really nice. And I think this is about where I also noticed that we're starting to collect... Oh, look at that! We're starting to collect quite a profit off of the exhibits that we have so far, which is awesome. So we'll definitely be able to do some more beautification. Oh my gosh, did you see that otter dive? Oh man, I wish I would have zoomed in on that. Okay, so here I'm just looking at any finishing touches I can do, make a little bit more plantation. I have some leftover tall grass, so I'm putting some of it in that makes sense, making sure they have enough hard soil, and they just made it. Wow, just adorable, just adorable. Wow. I think that's about it. Look at that compared to what we started with. I told you, it was going to turn into something way better than basic. Just look at that. And there is still more work left to do, but I think I'm about 80% happy with it. But still, I do want to stress one thing. Not gonna lie, I do not necessarily like the way that the front viewing area looks. The guests do seem to have a hard time with it too. But overall, I think it was a great addition to what you get to see first with the Cayman area. It's a great addition to that. And this is where I found, oh, that's why I was having a hard time moving around the rock section where the waterfall was in the otter habitat. So, I just ungrouped it, and then I moved it right back where it should be. Yep, that habitat is next. And I don't know if I want to keep it as a walk-in habitat. I'm just not really thrilled with how it narrows the pathway. And I think there's a new way you can go about fixing that problem, but I haven't discovered how to do it yet. For another video, just checking our donations. I was just surprised to see that we were almost at the 50K mark. I was really surprised by that. We still got some more research done. Looks like we got our South America stuff done. And our giant otter is now fully researched, so their education should be great for our guests. Still got to do the rest of the caiman and the giant anteater. I'm just checking more donations here. Looks like our exhibits are making some pretty good money. I'm very happy with that. Oh yeah, we're doing great there. Great investment. So I'm just finishing up any training that our staff needs. I'm thinking about trading some of our exhibit animals, but they're not stressed out yet, so I think I'm going to hold off. We got some pretty nice specimen, which should bring in some nice crowds, but we'll just hold off on that for the time being. The guests seem really happy with it. Overall, that's pretty much it. I want to thank you for watching, and if you like what you see, please like and subscribe. Let me know what you think. I'll even take the constructive criticism as well. So until next time, thank you for watching. Love others as you love yourself, and see you later.